baggage storage, but it was $10 for each small luggage, $15 for a big luggage. We're gonna walk around the mall with all our luggage. So now we're just waiting for our flight, and the gate's not open yet, so we're standing, or rather sitting, right outside our gate, right at the end of Terminal 1. The whole process of getting here was pretty easy. I guess the hardest part would be like right before checking in your luggage. They want to make sure you have all your documentation in order. So they asked me if I was a Filipino citizen. So I had to show my old passport, together with like our marriage certificate and our vaccination certificates and our PCR test results. And then after that, we just like checked in our luggage, no problems whatsoever. And then we just went through the departure, and then now we're here. Walked around a little bit. The airport is really empty. I don't think our flight's gonna be full. Yeah. Now all we have left to do is wait.
You can see like actually different countries have different entry requirements in terms of the protective equipment they have to wear. So for example, some countries require almost like full personal protection equipment, whereas others you just need a mask, you don't even need a face shield. So we're just gonna wait and chill. That's all we can do right now. Most of the places are still open, but some of them are of course closed. So yeah.
'Cause you're the only reason that I have a smile on my face. Someday, somehow, I'll find my way. 'Cause you're the only reason that I have a smile on my face.
quarantine day 1 breakfast. We have what looks like beef tapa, chicken nuggets, rice, an omelette, and banana, together with vinegar and ketchup. And Ben gets pretty much the same except with watermelon instead of banana. They gave us a bottle of water and plastic cutlery, but we decided to use the real cutlery that we have here. This is our lunch. I think this is adobo, and this is like some fish with sweet soy sauce. And this looks like eggplant with some tofu. Let's try. Not bad. Pretty good. Eating dinner in front of the TV tonight.
Looks like some sort of beef goulash, and then there's like chicken
Like a
and
milky chicken.
corn, and then
And
there's one looks like some sort of pasta.
Pasta, but
Yeah.
don't know what sauce. It doesn't look like there's any sauce. Taste test.
It is rice. Oh. It's a beef goulash, definitely. It's mushroom chicken. That's what I think. No, not bad.
Hey guys, so we thought we'd sit down and talk a little bit about our experience landing in Manila as well as landing in Singapore, since we didn't get the chance to talk about it while we were kind of on the go and filming. So I did prepare some notes for us to kind of remember the experience. So when we landed in Manila, I think the first thing we noticed was that all the people who arrived were kind of ushered into one area,
Yeah.
like quite in a small area.
We were the only plane there at that point of time. So there were about 40 to 50 people gathered in that small room. And interestingly enough, there was a whole group of Coast Guard, like the Philippine Coast Guard. I think there were at least 40 of them as well.
Yeah, they were just making sure everyone had their requirements. The main thing that everyone had to have was the One Health Pass QR code. And that's something that you get when you fill out a form before you depart from Manila. So we found that it was really useful to just take a screenshot of that QR code. That way it's easier for you to kind of present it every step of the way whenever anybody asks, because they pretty much don't ask for, like, even though we prepared printouts of our vaccination certificates and our swab test results, they didn't ask for any of that. They just asked for the QR code because we had to upload all of that information into the One Health Pass system anyway. So that made the whole process more seamless.
To their credit, they were really fast. And then after that, we just went to the immigration area. And because the way that we are getting in is due to Kim being a ex-Philippine citizen, and me being married to her, we had to get a printout of our marriage certificate. And at this point of time, because normally speaking, you're supposed to go one by one into the immigration area, we kind of arranged ourselves such that we'll go one at the same time. and so that she could just point at me and say that, oh, he's married to me and that's how he's getting in, and they can just, the immigration officers can just pass the copy of the marriage cert to each other directly, and so they can just get it all done at the same time rather than you having to go back and forth between two different people, and it can get quite confusing and difficult as well.
Yeah. And then after we got through immigration and got our luggage, all that was really left for us was to wait for our transportation. Similarly to when we arrived, the Coast Guard were also kind of assembled outside near the exit. So they were kind of facilitating everyone who was waiting for their transportation. So as far as we could tell, you couldn't really like leave the airport and just like wait outside. Most people were waiting inside the airport, and then what would happen is when your car arrived and they told the Coast Guard your name, then or hotel name maybe, then the Coast Guard would communicate that with the people who are kind of waiting inside, and then you'll be like, okay, that's my car, and then you're escorted to that car.
Do check the license plate. Sometimes what is given to you beforehand could change very dramatically, so you should double check the license plate. Also call up the hotel or the place that you're staying at to make sure that you're getting into the right vehicle. You don't want to travel halfway across the city and then realize you're going to a different location, so make sure you check. Other than that, it was pretty easy. We just got to the hotel. There was some administrative work to check us into the hotel, and we could not leave the vehicle. So we just had to pass all our documentations to the staff there, and they would go and check our reservation. And then right after that, we would go up into the hotel directly.
Yeah, straight up to the room. There was no loitering in the lobby. There was no talking to any personnel. We were just like brought straight up to the room in our own elevator/lift, and we weren't given a key or anything since you're meant to stay there the whole time. So we went to our room, and I believe our luggage were brought to us, right?
Yeah, the luggage was actually disinfected before we came up.
Yeah, we saw them like spray it down pretty intensely.
And then so right after we got our test results in the Philippines, we were allowed to check out the very next day, and it was a pretty simple process. You just settle everything for you. You make sure you pay any additional bills if you haven't paid already, and then you're free to go. So that's for our Philippines arrival.
Yeah, and after we spent about a month in Manila, a little over a month, and flew back to Singapore. And when we arrived here, the process was similarly straightforward. Before we flew, we did fill out the SGAC 3 days before we arrived, just to kind of inform the government that we're arriving. It's the, I believe, Singapore arrival card is what it's called, the SGAC. So we did end up booking our pre-departure ART test 2 days before we flew off. Thankfully, there was a place right across the street from where my family lives. It was supposed to be a drive-through.
It wasn't very
ART. Yeah. So it wasn't the most organized experience.
But at least you got the job done.
But it got the job done. And in the end, after the swab test was over, we just left. And very soon after, I think 1 or 2 hours after, they emailed the results to us. Right?
Yeah, it was pretty fast.
I guess the only thing about the ART test, at least the one we got, was that they had us fill out a online form. So that was where they got all our personal details, and that's how they get all your important information, like your name, your passport number, because the Singapore government specifically requires that these certificates be issued. Because the ART test, if you choose to take an ART test instead of a PCR test, it can't be self-administered, and it needs to have a non-handwritten certificate. So that was really important. Although having said that, we found that we didn't really have to we only needed to show that certificate one time, and that was when we were being checked into our flight back to Singapore. The lady asked for our negative pre-departure test results, and that was the only time where we really needed to show it. And so she issued us our boarding passes, and we checked in our baggage, and we were pretty much on our way.
Yeah, it wasn't a difficult process. It's pretty much the same as pre-pandemic, entering the airport into, I guess, departures are much easier compared to arrivals. Arrivals are really a hassle. So when we arrived in Singapore, it was about 8 o'clock, and actually we had 8:30, right? Yeah, 8:30. And actually, we had a couple of friends that had gone on holidays via the VTL lanes, or the VTLs, which are the vaccination travel lanes from Singapore to any country that they have decided is fairly safe. And they have told us that it was very difficult. It was chaotic. It was very crowded. You might be in an enclosed space with many other people. So we were mentally prepared for that.
Yeah, and one of our friends specifically told us kind of the sequence in which it would happen, because in our mind it was like, oh, when we arrived, maybe we would, similar to Manila, be funneled into a space where everyone would get swabbed. But actually, the swabbing tent
It's outside the immigration.
Outside, like it only happens after baggage claim.
Yeah, so you actually bring your baggage and everything with you as you go through to the swabbing area. So the immigration area is the same. If you're a Singaporean citizen or anyone who has a biometric passport, you're able to use the automated lanes. Pretty okay. Baggage claim, we were really lucky. Honestly, our entire experience was really fast, and we were very lucky because we just sped ahead of everybody else. So we just went through the automated lanes. Our luggage was literally the first items out of the carousel onto the carousel.
Maybe one of the first 10.
No, it's like 3 or 4 pieces is there already.
Yeah.
So we just took everything and then we just rushed out and went to the tent.
Yeah, so we were probably like second in line at the tent.
Yeah.
And this is where I think it's really important that you prepay for the test, because we did see like one person who hadn't prepaid and had no means of paying at the time, so she was,
she called her employer.
Yeah, she was pretty lost and confused. So it's really important that you prepay and kind of show any proof of payment. We actually didn't. They kept asking for a QR code, which we couldn't find, but what we could find was our official receipt. Until Ben discovered that the QR code is on the website where you prepay, so you have to kind of log into, is it the Changi Pass or
Changi Safe Travel Pass or Changi Travel Pass app. Yeah.
Is it an app or a web app?
Yeah, it's an app.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to. Oh, actually no, I had to log in via the website directly. The app wouldn't show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay.
So Ben and I were both put in the same station since we were traveling together. So he registered us. He found our names in the system. Like even when we didn't have the QR code at the time and only had the receipt, he managed to look at our passports, type in our name, find them, and print like the stickers that they needed to do the test, to like label your test accordingly. So like after we got the stickers, we brought these stickers over to the next portion of the tent where it was all like the swabbing stations.
There are about 20 of them.
Yeah.
It was really fast. Interestingly enough, they swabbed like one nostril and your throat.
The throat first. I thought it was very interesting that they swabbed. It was quite a fat like swab compared to the other swab tests we've had, and they swab like sort of the inside of your mouth. Well, actually deep in your throat, right?
Yeah.
Deep in your throat, and they use the same swab inside your nose, but for the nostril part, it wasn't deep. It was just kind of like they wiped the side of your nostril with it, because the swab is so large. It's basically just as large as your nostril. So we thought that was pretty interesting and different from what we've experienced before. But like after we were swabbed, we just proceeded straight out. We went to
The taxi stand /
the
pickup point.
pickup point so we could like quickly book our car to go home.
Yeah.
We landed at Terminal 3.
Yeah, Terminal
Yeah,
3.
that was
Terminal 2
Terminal
is
3.
closed now.
Yeah, we
So-
took Singapore Airlines back to Singapore.
Yeah. After that, we just got a Grab and came back home. And we were home and we were supposed to quarantine for 10 days.
Yeah, we served our stay-at-home notice for 10 days. We actually received like I think the same email like 3 times saying that we're
Reminding us to stay at home.
comply and the things that would happen to us if we didn't. So we made sure there's a section there that not many people might notice because I didn't notice until I read the email more carefully that you have to click a link to acknowledge
Yeah. So make
that
sure
you've read it.
acknowledge.
So acknowledge it is I think that's probably the reason why we were sent the email a
So many
couple of
times,
times because we didn't acknowledge it the first time we received it. We received it, I think that was even like before we flew off, right? When we
Yeah, a few
registered
times,
for the
yeah.
arrival card, we received the first email right away. So make sure to acknowledge it and read it. And
yeah.
yeah, so we basically just had to serve our stay-at-home notice.
We got called by ICA twice, and
Yeah.
they basically Kim got one call, I got one call, and it is a simple voice call. Actually, okay, when they call you, you can't really tell it's them
Yeah,
because
it's
the
like
number is like via WhatsApp, so it's like
No,
I don't even know.
well, at least for me, it wasn't via WhatsApp right away. It was a regular phone call, but it was a
Mine was
random.
by WhatsApp.
Oh, mine was a random number.
Yeah, so you will have no idea that it's ICA calling you. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no way. The only way you will know is after picking up, and then they will identify themselves, and then they will check. They will just ask you questions to make sure that you're at home.
Yeah.
Once they ask the standard questions, then they will ask you to turn on your video camera, and it's one way. So you basically just show that you are at your house, and if they are satisfied, they say thank you, and see you next time, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and then on the 9th day, we had our end of SHN PCR test.
Yes, which we prepaid for pretty much when we got back home from the airport. We logged on, prepaid for the swab test. And once you prepay, your information is then put into the system where they will just automatically schedule you for your test. So we received a text saying that, okay, your SHN swab test is gonna happen on this day
At this location.
at this location, and ours happened the day before our last day, so on the 9th day.
Yep.
I was at 11 a.m. and so we just booked a car because you're not allowed to take public transport, and the same applies for when you leave the airport. When you arrive, you're not allowed to take public transport. It's either your own vehicle or a private hire vehicle or a taxi.
By the way, taxi, you can't board a taxi like waiting at the taxi stand. It has to be hired to do so.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
it's
actually
like
in
it has to be hired.
the requirements.
Yeah, and you also have to tell them that you're on SHN. So what we did was in the chat function of the app, we would just type SHN, and obviously we would also personally tell the driver
drivers, yeah.
that we're serving SHN. I mean, obviously we're both wearing our masks and social distancing at all times. So the same thing applied for when we went to our SHN swab test. We also had to tell the vehicle driver that we were serving SHN and that we were going to get the SHN swab test. So on the 10th day, we got the results. I think it was around lunchtime. So it was, or maybe before lunch. So it was like roughly a day after we did the test. But it did tell, like the email did say that we were required to stay in your SHN venue until the 10th day. Basically, they say until you get a negative result or on the 10th day, at the end of the 10th day, whichever is later. So even if we had gotten the results before the end of the 10th day, we still couldn't leave.
Yeah, Barry is not supposed to leave.
Yeah. So we just made it a point to stay home till basically the day was over and we only left the house the day afterwards.
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, that was it.
yeah, and then we were free.
It was
So I think really the main lesson is if you're traveling during this time, make sure to have a buffer in your budget for all these tests. We were very lucky in that the Philippines had been upgraded to Category 3 from Category 4 by the Singapore government. So that meant we could serve our stay-home notice at home. Otherwise, we would have had to then pay to stay at a SHN facility, which is a hotel, which would have cost even more money. So I think that's something really important to consider if you're thinking about traveling at all. And otherwise, just being organized with your documents. So we just made sure we had photocopies of everything, printed everything out, especially in a country like the Philippines where we weren't sure, like, you know, how, if they were gonna have a very digital approach or because of like the facilities. So just to be safe, we had paper copies of everything as well as copies of everything on our phone.
so great.
And that was our experience. Yeah.
Click here to subscribe.
If you found this video useful.